All right. We can see everyone. We are live. Hey, hey, hey. Happy Friday. Our with Friday. Everyone on a Friday. All right. This this is my debut show. This is not going quite as smooth as it was last night, but we know that the show. All right. Um, this is weird. I don't know why I'm getting an echo. Um, Test, test. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. Is my sound right, people? Oh my goodness. I don't know if I should stop and restart. But in any event, are you guys getting an echo? An echo? Are you getting an echo? Hey, OG, I see Walter's in the house, brother. You gonna be in the show tonight. Are you guys getting an echo or feedback loop? A slight echo. All right. I don't know. This is the first time I'm using an Ethernet, but we're going to push through this because this look. If you don't know me, I am Friday Jones. I am going to be doing shows twice a month, and the goal for this show is to create a reparations mindset. We are going to be exploring different reparations programs. We're going to be looking at the lawsuits. We're going to be looking at the players in the landscape. If you have not checked out the pop-up video that I did on Liberation Ventures, I'm going to encourage you to go find that on my YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe, like, and share this video. That is a way you can support the channel. We're trying to grow to that first 1,000 subscribers. I don't know. We're going to see if we can get there. But in any event, I want to make sure that I'm going to try and share my screen. I had everything set up and tested everything last night, and yet here we are. And so here we are. We're going to share this screen. I got a lot of, when I say a lot of information, the most important part of tonight's show is going to be who one of the lead plaintiffs are in this Evanston lawsuit. Evanston, we all know, came on the scene with their housing voucher plan in 2019. It was to be funded by cannabis tax. Eventually, Evanston did legislation again in 2023, expanding reparations and their housing voucher program from $10 million to $20 million. Shortly after that, there was a lawsuit. And so the GRIO, if you guys are seeing the screen, OG, I see you're saying yes, there's an echo. I don't know what to do about this. This is crazy. There shouldn't be an echo. Um, I'm not sure what to do. I almost want to leave and start again, but and so Walter, you're saying yes, there's an echo. Is that what the yes means? There's an echo. Is it a bad echo? I mean, I can't mute myself because then you guys won't hear anything. All right, I turn my sound down so that it's not reverbing back. Is that better? Is that better? Is that better? Can someone talk to me in the chat real quick so I can know whether or not it's better? One, if it's better. Go on, we hear you. Okay, that's all I needed because I got a lot to get into. So Evanston had this plan, 2019. I was very critical of the plan. We knew a lawsuit was coming. We knew that this was a race-based housing voucher program, right? Um, Initially, it helped 16 people. I think after they had done their study, thanks, Walter. No echo. All right, no feedback on the reverb. What we learned was that they could only help 16 people. Then they ran into some financial issues because the cannabis business in Illinois did not do what they had anticipated it could do in order to support the reparations. And so when it comes to our needs, there's always, not always, but when it comes to our needs, the funding for programs that are specific to us are typically not funded in a way that is sustainable in the long term, right? 25,000 benefits. When the benefits first came out, and this is talking about the marijuana tax, $10 million. That $10 million was supposed to generate between $500,000 and $750,000 annually. It felt very short. Here's Robin Ruth Simmons, who is very instrumental. She is the chair of First Prepare, and she was very instrumental in making Evanston happen. It says there are still 106 people on the waiting list, but there were initially 400 Black people who would benefit from this $25,000 program. If you recall, back when this first came out, it was a lot of bureaucracy. It was a lot of red tape. People could not get the cash in their hands to kind of do what they needed to do. They had the harm, but they couldn't easily get the money. So this 2023 revamp was basically in order to more easily make the funding accessible to the folks, right? We see here the Black community is historically Black, still predominantly Black. Said Robin Ruth Simmons, she's the former member of Evanston City Council, and she founded First Repair. Before seeing the data, there were living conditions of anti-Blackness, which is to be expected anywhere from the period of 1919 to 1969, right? I want to hop into this document because this document is from the City of Evanston website. It gets into the research that was done to substantiate this. And I want to shout out this big brother, Morris Dino Robinson. This is his research. When Evanston needed to do the research, what they found was that Dino, because of his background, had been collecting data on Evanston for a long time. And so there was a disparity report that he created. I had the privilege of sitting with him at the National Black Journalists Association in 2024. We were on the reparations panel in Chicago together. And what I appreciated from Dino is he said that when they started this mission with Evanston, they were just trying to do something. And I felt like that was the first honest interpretation of what happened with Evanston that I had heard from anyone. And he did the research covering the period of 1900 to 1960. They covered so much more than what this reparations housing voucher program was, but there was redlining in Evanston. Obviously, segregation happened. There was segregation in employment through public and private services within the city itself. Schools were segregated. There was the redlining housing, zoning policies that really crippled Black people and their ability to live wherever they wanted within the city. He did maps, drew a conclusion. And I think it's really important to just briefly go through this, because at the base, when we have these conversations about delineation, do we stay? Do we go? What do we say? How do we say it? His research starts with what? 1787. It starts with the Union, right, which is very much post-Civil War, and what slaves could and could not be do. Slaves could not be brought into Northwest Territories under this ordinance from 1787, but slaves were already in bondage, and they were already in Indiana and in Illinois. And slavery was abolished in 1818 in those states. But both Ohio policy prevented Black immigration, and laws requiring Blacks who moved into the state to produce legal documents verifying that they were free and put in bond to guarantee their good behavior. So they had to pay to be in these states. They were taxing the Black people to be good. When they were slaves, it didn't matter if they were good or bad, but they had to pay a tax to be present. And then it goes through like colonialization, and what was going on in the state. There was anti-immigration rules that were challenging a case of a Black man convicted for bringing a Black woman in the state to marry her. These are the kinds of conditions that we were living under. And this research, I wanted to bring up Dino's research because it starts where? With us. And so when you start with the basis of enslaved people being the basis and the foundation, you have to recognize them as American freedmen. I want to get kind of to the ending of his report, but his history in Illinois, here, 1853, Black law passed, considered the harshest of this discrimination of Black laws passed in the northern states before the Civil War. This is what is our history. This is the American history. He did a very beautiful job. He goes through this thing. I'm not going to get all the way into it. We don't have enough time, but this thing goes through the drug crisis. It goes through the housing. It does a really beautiful job of talking about the Great Migration and the states that folks came from. This is us. This is our history. And it is so powerful. And in the conclusion, he basically expounds that the level of repair that's required obviously goes beyond a housing voucher program. And I want people to just remember that. Shortly after this expansion, we have this lawsuit. Evanston faces a lawsuit over reparations and payments to Black residents. Judicial Watch, a conservative legal group, argues that the reparations plan is unconstitutional if applicants qualify for payments based on their race. Again, Evanston chose to go down the route of writing a race-based bill. Conservative activist group filed a class action lawsuit against reparations program in Evanston, Illinois, claiming unconstitutional. In 2021, Evanston became the first city in the U.S. to implement the reparations program. That is actually not quite right. It's Florida, in Rosewood, Florida, which was a state action in Florida because it went through their assembly to get the descendants free education. So Evanston is like second, not first. In any event, Black residents affected 1919 to 1969. Judicial Watch is representing 6 non-Black people whose ancestors lived in the Chicago suburb at the time, and they argue that the program aimed to ameliorate historic wrongdoings, violates the Equal Protection Clause, and that is what Judicial Watch claimed. Evanston's program was designed in order to acknowledge historical harms to residents who experience discriminatory housing policies and practices, right? Evanston's first phase of reparations program provided $25,000 to eligible Black residents. The city council allocated $10 million. We already explored the fact that it was only 16 residents. OG, I see. Can you share a link of the video with the descriptor? Yes, I posted that on X. So if you go to I am Friday Jones, you will actually see the link if you want to repost it and share it and get people into this room. Black residents are eligible for the 25,000 payments. At least 129 people who lived in Evanston during this period had accepted reparations payments as of May 1st, and this is May 1st, I believe, of 2024. An additional 80 people who are descendants of those who lived in the city during that period are expected to receive payments this year, according to reparations committee documents. So they are doing what? Lineage. So they want to be anti-lineage, but you can't. That's the nature of the work. Judicial Watch claims that the plaintiffs in its case lawsuit should be eligible for the program, satisfying all requirements except the race requirement. The Evanston, Illinois Reparations Program is nothing more than a ploy to redistribute tax dollars to individuals based on race. I want you to remember this. This is coming from their president, Judicial Watch's president, Tom Fitton, where he is on this 14th Amendment rights. When we get into one of the lead plaintiffs, I'm going to be knocking you guys' socks off. In the meantime, in between time, let me see if I can find the actual lawsuit and if I can bring it here for a minute. And we're going to maximize it because, I like running through these legal documents. I like to be a little legal beagle. So this is the case that was filed in May of 2024. I want you to remember these names: Margot Flynn, Carol Johnson, Stacey's Neimanis. Sounds like Neiman Marcus, right? Barbara Regard, Henry Regard, Stephen Whalen. All of these names, with the exception of Johnson, are German. And that is going to come into play in a very meaningful way. Carol Johnson, that last name is like a Scottish name. But these other names, for the most part, are German names, right? Plaintiffs Margot Flynn, Carol Johnson, Stacey's Neimanis, Barbara Regard, Henry Regard, Stephen Whalen by counsel bring this class action lawsuit challenging on equal protection grounds defendant City of Evanston use of race as an eligibility requirement. Whenever you see these conservatives, their format is the same. The Fearless Fund was sued in the same way. It was class action. They find someone who, but for race, would be able to participate in whatever the action is that has been carved out as reparatory. And the Constitution absolutely allows you to actually do reparatory work when you can document the harms. And Dino did an excellent job at documenting these harms, right? So this has been filed and the venue is proper. The parties are all at least 18 years of age. And in the case of Margot Flynn is a direct descendant of an Evanston resident. Plaintiff Flynn's parents and grandparents lived in Evanston between 1919 and 1969. Plaintiff does not identify as Black, nor does their parents. Plaintiff Carol Johnson basically says the same thing. We're going to get into this plaintiff Stacey's Neimanis, right? Whose parents lived in Evanston between 1919 and 1969. Says the same thing. The city in general is using essentially city funds, and that's the part that they are not happy with. A series of resolutions. This $25,000 can go to the children, grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren, which is what, folks? That's lineage, right? Following the initial application, further applications will be accepted. Talks about the first group of people who received the funding, and at no point in the process are persons in the first and second groups required to present evidence that they or their ancestors experienced housing discrimination. So that's their number one right, that no one has to actually prove that they experienced housing discrimination. But if there are red line laws saying where you can and cannot live, you clearly experience a hardship. In effect, Evanston is using race as a proxy for having experienced discrimination during this period of time. A third group of persons eligible for the $25,000 payments are current residents who are 18 or younger, who can show that they actually experienced it. So they do have a beneficiary class that does indeed have to document where and how they experienced discrimination after 1969. We know 1968 was the final Civil Rights Act, and that was around the issue of housing. And then it gives the dates, how they will verify the descendants. It goes on about who else is eligible. And it's the saying that we say this is a class action, and it's impractical because of the time span. So they're basically saying the time span is too long. Plaintiff's claims are typical of other class members for discrimination. So these people are now saying that they're being discriminated against. I need y'all to hold on to that, okay? Let me minimize this. Brother Walter, every immigrant has received reparations as they ran and came here and used tax dollars, baby. Your research is going to be up in a minute. Um, I went to my handy dandy family search. And because Stacey's Nemana's name was so profound, like Neiman Marcus, I said, let's look into this person. So I think this person is deceased. I think we're talking about the son of this 96-year-old who was in the census, right? We have some sort of social program correspondence with the Stacey's Nemanis with a birth date of 1899. So we know that that's the elder who is deceased. And I believe that there is a child because there is a junior somewhere. There was a junior, and I believe it's the junior that we are talking about. But this, I want to take a look at this right here. Take a look right here. Take a look right here. Now, y'all, I talk about my ancestry, right? It says these people came here, and the person who was suing, I believe, was born in 1932. And so this is the junior who was immigrated here with his parents in 1955. When I look at the immigration records from my white ancestors who fought in the Revolutionary War and within 2 generations in the United States became slave-owning planters of the South Carolina, their immigration records look very different. This immigration record just says that they were naturalized in Chicago. On my white Irish ancestors' records, it talks about what part of Ireland they immigrated from. It gives a vessel that they arrived to the United States on. It just gives more information than this person showed up on the land in 1955. But this is one of the lead plaintiffs in this lawsuit. Okay, there is this Social Security Act, and I have to find. I don't have it open here. I'm like kicking myself. How I found this person was there is a Lithuanian church in, I think it's Clifton, which is like one town over from Evanston, and it was this documentary documenting the father before he passed away, documenting whoever this Stacey's Neimanis is senior, documenting his ties to Germany and Lithuania, what happened before the war. It's a documentary in Lithuania. I could only understand Chicago, Illinois, America, Germany, war. And then at some point, there are these other Lithuanians who are part of this little church in Evanston or Clifton, I think is the next town over. And that's how I found this person. That's how I found this person and knew it was the right person in this lawsuit. They talked about their experience with escaping the war. There was a woman, not a lead plaintiff, who talked about having to leave and how she remembers being a little girl and she went back to Lithuania and found the house that she remembered fleeing from. And so these are people who came and were naturalized in 1955. This is after we had already built this country. This is while we were in the thick of the civil rights era. And this is now this person who is a Holocaust survivor who was naturalized in the United States in 1955. This is the person who is the face of this lawsuit against Black Americans in America. I want to make that claim really clear. What this individual was able to access was something called payments to victims of Nazi persecution. And so in the United States, shortly after World War II, the Federal Republic of Germany began to make a number of individual settlements to compensate the victims of Nazi persecution in 1956. Again, the white people in my family tell where they immigrated from, where they were born, what vessel they arrived on. There's none of that information here. And we want to believe that these people, I don't know what role they might have played in World War II. I'm just saying that because there's no documentation to say that what they experienced or didn't. Were you part of Hitler's army or weren't you? But we have this World War II Federal Republic of Germany law that provided reparations payments to certain survivors of the Holocaust. The German Reunification Act of 1990 provided additional reparations payments to Nazi persecution victims through programs administered by the Conference on Jewish Material Claims Against Germany. And since 1997, under the German law for payments and pensions for periods of employment in a ghetto, a German acronym for ZRBG, the German government has granted credits towards pension under its social insurance program to victims in Nazi persecution. Other payment countries have provided payments. Austrian government has done that. There is this Nazi Persecution Eligibility Act. And basically what happened after 1999 is that if you were in the United States and you were receiving these payments, just like this executive order here from George H. Ryan, the governor of Illinois, who in 1999, based on these federal laws that were coming through and these German treaties and America's treaties with these Germans, there was growing awareness on the part of citizens throughout the world on the moral obligation to make reparations to victims of the Holocaust. Where the people in the state of Illinois are aware that no amount of money in damages can fully compensate the Holocaust victims, they encourage and approve the payments of reparations. Illinois taxpayers are entitled to distribution because of their status as victims of persecution for ethnic, racial, or religious reasons by Nazi Germany. So it's okay for Stacey Namanis to come to the United States, to immigrate here, to receive funding since 1955, which is the year that he presumably immigrated here. And I'm going to say allegedly, but that's what we saw in the records. It's okay for these taxpayers to be victims, again, of persecution for ethnic, racial, or religious reasons by Nazi Germany and any other Axis regime or heirs of such victims, and an increase in value of assets from that time. Assets were stolen. So they even given them credit for the increase in value that they lost for assets that were stolen or hidden or otherwise lost to victims of persecution. Black people lost a whole lot with the Great Migration. There's a lot of people who left land in the South, the deep South and the rural South of the United States of America, lost land because of ethnic racial prosecution. But now we have Pacific Legal standing in as the lead attorneys for Stacey Namanis, who it appears, I don't know, like I said, I don't know if he's a Holocaust victim, but that's what I got from the documentary on YouTube about these Lithuanians and this little Lithuanian church that's there in Illinois. That's what it appears to be for me. So I can only say, again, based on what I saw in the video. And here we have George Ryan saying, based on the United States government and the Federal Republic of Germany and their income tax treaty of 1989, they've recognized that the government should not diminish the amount of reparations payable to Holocaust victims by subjecting said reparations to income tax. Do y'all hear me what I'm saying? That means that they are allowing these people to basically keep their earnings tax-free. So our Black people in Chicago who were living there from 1919 through these 1950s, paying taxes, not being fully serviced, being marginalized, having to live in red zones, I don't think these people had to experience those same things. I don't think that they were relegated to the same places because they came into the country getting bank. And when I say getting bank, they were getting big bank. My boy, and I always show this. You can never quite see it. You can never see it. You just sort of see the thing floating around. But this report right here is a report that my dear friend Edwards, who is here in the comments tonight, has done research on all of the United States and the federal government to quantify how much Holocaust victims, whether it be in services, have received from the United States, and in this case, from the state of Illinois. The state of Illinois, according to the research by the good brother, has paid out to Holocaust $30 million. The United States has paid out $12 billion. And so now this person, this person, this person, this person's child, who is, we know that Holocaust victims' heirs also receive payments. This person who didn't have to pay taxes for a period of time on their reparations because of, and we're gonna be clear, because of, and it says it here, this is not my word, because of ethnic and racial or religious reasons by Nazi Germany, i.e. not American soil, this person wants to be the lead, one of the leads on reparations for Black Americans for ethnic and racial reasons. And the attorney, let's go back to the attorney. Let's go back. The attorney, where did he go? Hold on, bear with me, y'all. Conservative group. The group Judicial Watch is representing 6 non-Black people whose ancestors lived in the Chicago suburb at that time. They argue that the program aimed to ameliorating historic wrongdoings violates the Equal Protection Clause. So because the United States has a treaty with Germany, Black people were not, I don't know, violated by the Equal Protection Clause by paying taxes and paying $30 million to Holocaust victims of their tax money without consideration and protection of the 14th Amendment. Where's that lawsuit? Where's that lawsuit? People want to play these games. They want to play with us, Black people. They want us to not read. And so the cases that I'm going to be bringing, these things, and I believe Asheville is going to be my next, Asheville is going to be my next show. And hold on, let me tell you guys when that show is going to be, because I want you guys to start spreading the word and telling the good people about it. Actually, Boston is going to be my next show on April 3rd. April 3rd, 7 p.m. I'll be doing another live, and we're going to do another deep dive into Boston reparations. Boston reparations does not have a legal action against it, but Boston reparations absolutely is a freedmen-based bill. It's not race-based, and it doesn't use our history. And I don't want to say that Dino misused our history in order to create a race bill, but it doesn't do a bait and switch. And unfortunately, and there's a good legal team. I'm going to have to do a follow-up show with the legal team and like the response from First Repair and the response from the city of Evanston. I need to find that in order to show this. But I'm sorry, you don't get to come to the United States. You don't get to naturalize here. You don't get to collect your reparations, and then you stand in the way of other people's reparations on their land. Unacceptable. I do know who the attorneys are. We'll go through some of their arguments. I don't know, I'm not an attorney. I keep telling you guys that. But I have some other legal strategies that I might want to advise and push just based on the fact that there is an executive order. And I don't know if this guy is still the governor. I don't think he's still the governor because this was like 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But based on his executive order, where he actually specifies that the payments were for persecution of ethnic and racial reasons, I think some of these people at the front of this lawsuit need to go sit down. I don't understand the basis of them being the front faces when they had American taxpayers supplementing resources that they were getting out of the state of Illinois back in 1955. It's out of order, and we have to start calling these people out. We have to understand these lawsuits. We have to start showing up in some of these uh, rooms, these courtrooms, and you have to be a lawyer to file what is known as an amicus brief. You can file as a friend of the court. And some of us, some of my Chicago peeps, and I hope some of the folks, Chicago Red, the brother Arthur Ward up there. There are some folks, in Chicago that we know who were part of this reparations movement very, very early on. Brother Marlon, we have a sister. Oh, I see her pretty face. Oh my God, Cynthia, Sister Cynthia. There needs to be amicus briefs drafted and dropped into, and just so we clear, because they say that they are in the proper court. Where's that court document? Social Security executive order. Did I shut it down? No, I didn't shut it down. It's a document that's down here. This Flynn versus Evanston case. And I'm gonna tell you guys, let me go to the bottom. I want you guys to see, these are the attorneys here submitted from Judicial Watch and from this company. Let me show the screen so you guys can see it. Judicial Watch submitted this. And then we got to start, talking about these law firms, and we got to see who else are their clients, what else are they doing. Chalmers, Adams, Backer, and Kaufman. We have to start following these people like they follow us, like the watchers that they are. We have to follow these people. And this was filed. So for those of you that do want to send a friendly letter, friends of the court, this is in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois, Eastern Division. Again, for those of you that want to file an amicus brief as a friend to the court, you would file it in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Eastern Division. Okay? Evanston, and the case number. Oh, they don't have the case number here. I will have to find that, but I want to make sure that we start being proactive in our works. That's my first show. Yeah, Cynthia. I'm not going to say her last name, but she know who she is up there in Illinois. And I see Walter says Mayor Karen Bass gave Asian community $1 million for Asian homelessness. No one sues any other group but Freedman community. Don't get funding for the homeless. New York Governor Hochul gave Holocaust victims $183 million to further find their assets that were taken from them. There were so many assets taken from us. The whole the patents initially filed in the patent department in the United States, largely enslaved people inventions that were just stolen, were just taken. And there are plenty of corporations that were formed in the early 1800s that are still making money today. We got people who get on the set in 1955 and want to be the face of a lawsuit because they've been so wronged. Okay, where's the counter lawsuit? Where are my lawyers at? Last thing. For those of you, let me find a little banner. I'm going to run a little banner. Run the banner. I want you guys to go to this little site that I created, reparations, FORLA.org, reparations4la.org. I created this site so we can build momentum. I put back on my advocate hat. I want folks to stay involved with the LA reparations. There will never be any solicitation from this site. This is solely to let people know what is happening and to act. And so if you go to reparations4la.org, this is not a city website. This is a website that I want to curate activists who are going to be willing to do the work that needs to be done in Los Angeles. So I wanted to share that with you all tonight. In the last little segment, because we are about to wrap it up here, unless there are any questions, I want to start highlighting people, artists that are really talking about the reparations movement in their works. And if you don't follow Sing Kirby Sing, honey, she is from Mississippi, and you guys know I love Mississippi. I love the people in Mississippi. Medgar Evers, I didn't know this as a child, but Medgar Evers had a picture in my home as a child. I thought he was a family member. I thought he lived in Brooklyn, New York, and he is a freedom fighter who paid the ultimate price for our freedom. And the work that Sing Kirby Sing does, and this is her Instagram page, you guys can follow her, the visuals that she uses. She's a Southern girl. Um, she has a reparation song that the visuals are just astounding and amazing. I'm not going to get into copyright issues, but I wanted to share her page. This is going to be my little dragonfly segment in memory of my grandmother, Mildred Jones, who passed away last year. I want to highlight artists that really bring our culture to life, and she does it so strongly and so well, and she has such a creative voice. I just wanted to share her with you as the spotlight, Dragonfly spotlight for tonight, the artist that we're gonna just lift up. And if anybody knows how I could get Kirby here to talk about her work, I would love to have her on the show. But this is what this show is about. This show is about having a reparations mindset. It is Friday Jones Uncensored. I am Friday Jones. I'll be your host, walking you through information. Information is power. If you know any people in Chicago, in Illinois, I think you should share this information with them. I think it's important that we know who we're dealing with. You don't get to hide behind Judicial Watch. You don't get to be ethnically and racially persecuted and then be the face against other people in the United States who have been ethnically and racially persecuted. That is not how the universe works. That's not how things are to be balanced. There's a price to be paid for all things. And we're entering into a new phase. I'll be wrapping up my book. I'll be taking a final trip in late April so that I can get this book out. But we're in a spiritual kind of warfare, and we have to understand who the people are, who the players are, and we got to understand our position in it. And there's nowhere we take L's in the court system. I always keep attorneys on my phone dial. It has occurred to me I don't know enough civil rights attorneys, and I daggone sure don't know the civil rights attorneys that get freedmen and who we are and what we are. And I did a video in a nutshell where I explained it at the end of that Liberation Ventures, because people always say they don't know, they don't know what this comes from. We're all black the same. No, that is what Dr. Joy DeGroy calls that post-traumatic slave syndrome. We had to be that in order to survive. We're beyond survival at this point. And if you understand the 5 civilized tribes, the Choctaw, Seminole, Cherokee, I'm forgetting the other 2, but if you understand what their 1866 treaties are, I did some work with attorney Sharice Pryor and ETM Media. You can go look at us reading those treaties. If you compare that treaty to what is his name? General Sherman's Field Order 15. Everyone talks about that 40 acres and a mule. No. There was governance in there. There was self-determination in there. We had the right to basically be employed however we wanted to be employed. And I'm of a firm belief that there should be American freedmen towns sprinkled all across the United States where we have the rights that were given to us in that Field Order 15. And if you understand the basis of that, you will understand, yes, American freedmen need to have distinction. I've also talked about the fact that our dual citizenship, for a lot of us, is with us being out of treaty. We don't necessarily have to go to Africa, but if that's what you want for your reparations, I'm here to help you get that, because why we're supposed to self-determine our own outcomes. So With that said, I am Friday Jones. This is my first of Friday Jones Uncensored. I have a couple of things coming. You know, you order things and they don't always get to you on time, but I really am looking to grow this channel. So please like and share the video. If you don't follow me on social media, I am Friday Jones on all social media. I will be building out a reparations group on the app Orion. Orion is a little clunky, but it's very protected and the government is not all in your business. So if you haven't heard of the Orion app, I need you to go find it. I'll make sure that I start having a banner for that. But that's all I have for you tonight. I really, Walter and OG, I'm so grateful for you all tuning in. I know we only have 4 eyes, but I know as I start sharing this information and we start understanding the war that we are under, we will know there's enough room for all of us to do this work. So peace and reparations. I'm Friday Jones. I thank you all for being here tonight.